It is time for yet another NHL Deal or No Deal, and this one has a theme to it. We got Seth Jones mock trades, and we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of Mitch Marner mock trades as well. Now let me clarify, I don't think Mitch Marner is going to get traded. However, with all the talk about Marner that went on after the Leafs lost Game 7 and how he underperformed, I thought it would be fun to put at least a couple of Marner trades in here. But for the most part, this video is going to be themed around Seth Jones mock trades with a hint of Mitch Marner. Also, massive shout out and thank you to everybody who took the time out of their day to go and leave a mock trade on the post. There are a ridiculous amount of comments on there. It took me a long time to go through them all. Even if you're one of the people that don't get their comment featured in today's video, just know I appreciate every single comment. You guys make this series what it is. Now, enough rambling, let's get into this with the first mock trade that comes from Max the River, who says, okay then, Toronto, Jones plus the Leafs first round pick back that they sent to Columbus in the Nick Foligno trade, and in exchange Columbus gets Mitch Marner. I wanted to include this in the video because there's no chance this happens. This would be an atrocity of a trade for the Toronto Maple Leafs. For one, I don't really think Jones is what Toronto needs, and for two, the value just isn't there. Seth Jones is a pending unrestricted free agent, well, not this offseason, but next offseason. Seth Jones is coming off of a miserable season, and you look at Mitch Marner, he's younger than Seth Jones, he's locked up for the foreseeable future despite how you may feel about that contract, and he's coming off of a season in which he finished top 5 in league scoring. The value just isn't there, even though Toronto would be getting their first round pick back here. Still, I don't think that makes up the difference, so I'm 100% saying no deal to this. I just wanted to make sure I put it in the video and started off the video with it because it's a mock trade that I've seen a lot of people putting out there. Moving along now to the next mock trade, this one comes from Braden Corbeil, who says three-way deal to Calgary Seth Jones, to Minnesota Sean Monahan, to Columbus Calgary first, Minnesota first and third. This was one of the most liked mock trades on the entire post, 50 likes at the time I took this screenshot, and I think that's for good reason. This makes a whole lot of sense for all three teams involved in my opinion. First, let's take a look at this from the point of view of the Columbus Blue Jackets getting 2 first round picks here, one from Calgary and one from Minnesota, and an extra third from Minnesota. I don't think that's amazing value for what Seth Jones can be. This is a guy who finished 4th in Norris Trophy voting just a couple of seasons ago, and I mean, you look at it this way, Columbus got 2 first round picks at the deadline for Nick Foligno and David Savard, so you would think they could get more than this for Seth Jones, right? I feel like I would like this a lot more for Columbus if there was even just like a B-level prospect involved, but I still don't hate it. Now let's look at it from the Minnesota Wild's point of view. So they're giving up a first and a third round pick in this trade, and they're getting Sean Monahan, and I think Monahan would be a great fit in Minnesota. This is a team that lacks depth down the middle, or I guess I should say lacks star power down the middle. Now I love me some Joel Eriksson. He had a fantastic breakout season. He's a very, very good two-way centerman, but he doesn't have the top-end skill or finishing ability that Sean Monahan has. And when you look at the Minnesota Wild center depth outside of Eriksson, it's pretty lackluster. I mean, Victor Rask played a lot of this season on a line with Zuccarello and Kaprizov. Imagine if that was Sean Monahan instead of Victor Rask. So I think this makes sense for the Wild, and now looking at it from Calgary's point of view, you give up Sean Monahan in this trade, you give up a first round pick, and get Seth Jones, and I've been one of the people beating the drum that Calgary should try and shake up this core a little bit. It's just not working. And out of Calgary's core forwards, Lindholm, Tkachuk, Monahan, and Gaudreau, I think Monahan is probably the most likely candidate to get dealt, and I think getting Seth Jones back for Monahan in a first is pretty good value if it comes with a contract extension. I think this would be way too much to give up for just potentially 1 year of Seth Jones, so I want to make that clear. So if this trade came with Seth Jones agreeing to an extension with the Calgary Flames, I'm going to go ahead and say deal. I think this is a well thought out mock trade. Even though I don't love the value going back to Columbus here, I also don't hate it. I mean, if they added those 2 first round picks, that would give Columbus an extra 4 first round picks since the trade deadline, which is definitely something that can speed up the rebuild or retool process. Alright, we have another Mitch Marner mock trade here. This one comes from HabsFan3197. Toronto gets Timo Meier, Mario Ferraro, Kevin Labanc, and their 2021 first round pick in exchange for Mitch Marner and Alex Galchenyuk. If the Maple Leafs were to trade Mitch Marner, this is the type of value I would expect them to get in return. This is a massive haul. Timo Meier is a guy who scored 30 goals, put up 60 points in a season season before, Kevin Labanc, let's not forget, he had a 50-point season with the Sharks as well, and Mario Ferraro, he's a 22-year-old defenseman who had some pretty solid results this year, all things considered, you know, playing on a really bad San Jose team. And on top of those three guys, you're getting a first-round pick from the Sharks, which has the potential to be very, very valuable. Like, that's not just a late first-rounder or anything, that's 7th overall this year. Don't get me wrong, I think the Sharks would love to have Mitch Marner, I think he'd be a really good fit on that team, but in my opinion, this is honestly a little bit too much for them to give up, especially with that first-round pick being involved and it being 7th overall. I just think that's way too much. So I'm going to go ahead and say no deal to this one from the Sharks' point of view. If San Jose called Kyle Dubas and offered this, I feel like Dubas would almost have to take it. This next mock trade comes from the Winnipeg Whiteout, who says to Philadelphia, Seth Jones at a 2021 first, to Columbus, Konechny, and Gostisbehere. Now I like this one. The only thing is, it depends on which pick it is exactly that Columbus would be sending to Philly here. I don't think they should include their own first round pick in this trade, but if it was the one they got from Tampa Bay or the one they got from Toronto, then this could work. Now you would think that Travis Konechny would be an untouchable for the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't necessarily think that's the case though. This is a guy who had a pretty disappointing year after leading the team in points last season. If I'm not mistaken, Travis Konechny was a healthy scratch at one point this season as well, so I don't think Konechny's as untouchable as you might think, and after the disappointing year that Konechny and the Flyers just had, I think that they could be looking to shake things up a little bit, especially adding someone on the blue line, because that's a large part of what let them down this year was their defense and goaltending. And on top of Jones, they'd be getting that first round pick here, which I think would have to be one of Tampa Bay or Toronto's, and they could use that and draft a prospect, or they could use it and flip it and try to make a different trade. And for Columbus, this would be a great return for a player in Seth Jones who you know is most likely leaving in unrestricted free agency next offseason. Konechny is a dynamic young forward who is locked up through the 2024-25 season at a very reasonable $5.5 million cap hit, and they'd be getting Ghost in this mock trade as well, who at this point isn't all that valuable. He may even be seen as a negative asset. This is a guy who cleared waivers earlier in the year, but this is a defenseman who had a 65-point season not all that long ago. It was the 2017-18 season. Maybe Columbus could bring him in, try to revive his career a little bit, and flip him down the line. So again, I really like this one. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to say deal here. Moving along, now this comment comes from AEO234, who says Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, and a second-round pick for Seth Jones. This mock trade had a decent amount of likes, however, I think that's way too much to give up for Seth Jones. Like, is Seth Jones even better than Colton Parayko? He definitely wasn't this past season, and that's not even factoring in Robert Thomas, who's a great player as well. So again, I think that's way too much. I feel like the Blues would be taking some steps backwards if they made this trade. Next up, this mock trade comes from Matt Bridges, who says Nashville acquires Mitch Marner in exchange for Ryan Ellis and a 2021 first-round pick. Let me get this out of the way right from the get-go. I think Ryan Ellis would be an incredible fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just don't know if the value's there for this trade. Like, maybe if you even take away that first-round pick and include somebody like Victor Arvidsson, who's a pretty dynamic winger, I think that would make things a lot closer here, because although the first-round pick is nice and it adds value to the trade, obviously coming back to Toronto, but Toronto's a team that's trying to win a Stanley Cup right now. I don't know how much a first-round pick would really interest Kyle Dubas in a trade where he's getting rid of Mitch Marner. I think in all likelihood he'd probably rather a roster player who can help his team win now than a first-round pick in that situation, so I'm going to say no deal here. But if trading Marner was something Kyle Dubas was indeed looking at doing, I think Nashville would be an alright partner to try to get something going with. Maybe not this particular mock trade because I don't think the value's there, but I think Nashville has other pieces as to where they could make this work. And now for the final mock trade of the video. I'm sorry for this one being shorter than the usual Deal or No Deals. I've been finding it really hard lately to record for long periods of time. I've been battling a pretty bad virus, or it feels like weeks now, where I just have a really bad cough and I lose my voice if I talk for long periods of time. So this is going to be the last one, and it comes from Dan Bunn, who says Kuznetsov and a third for Seth Jones with an extension in place. I am very, very interested to see what happens with Evgeny Kuznetsov. It seems like he's kind of in the doghouse in Washington, so I could see him being traded for sure, and this mock trade really intrigues me. If it is indeed just a retool, what Columbus is going to try and go through here, not just a full rebuild, and that's what Jarmo Kekalainen said that they're going to do, then maybe Kuznetsov makes a little bit of sense, but the only thing is he's already 29 years old. He's going to be on the wrong side of 30 soon. He is signed through the 2024-25 season, but realistically, do we think Columbus is going to be in a position to contend in that time frame? I don't really think so. So I feel like if they were trading away Seth Jones, it would make a lot more sense to get a younger asset here, or first round picks, or like a top prospect or something like that. So for that reason, I'm going to say no deal. I would love to see Kuzi on a line with Laine though. He's a great playmaker. Laine is a lethal shooter. Seems like a match made in heaven, right? So that is going to do it for today's NHL Deal or No Deal. I really hope you guys did enjoy. I apologize to everybody who left a comment on the post that wasn't featured in this video, which is a lot of you because again, there was a ridiculous amount of comments. If you guys are a fan of the Deal or No Deal series and you want to see another one in the near future, then be sure to leave this video a like. That's the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and I will talk to you all in the next video.